Hello, welcome to Scale to Exit. I am Alejandra Santos, your hostess with the mostest, and today I'm very excited to bring our guest. Our guest, her name is Sandra White. She's an emotional intelligence and mindset coach. She has worked with business owners into becoming an empathetic leader by helping them increase their emotional intelligence. She has been part of acquisition transitions, how to transition a company to a new buyer. She has been part of the whole transformation, if needed, in part of an acquisition when it comes to their team. She has worked with Fortune 100, 500 companies. I mean, and when you hear this episode, you will see how calming her presence is and how sweet she is as well. So you will love to listen her journey on how she came from the corporate world into what she's doing now. And she has really good strategies and techniques for everybody that's listening on how to increase your emotional intelligence. With that being said, sorry, if you guys are watching in video, you guys will notice a tons of messiness behind me. I am doing a few changes to my studio, and like everything else in life, everything needs to happen all at once because why not, right? So yeah. Before I bring her in, I do want to tell you guys that Sandra White, is one of the speakers in the panels for our November 1st event. November 1st event is a business summit event, is virtual to empower women create legacy wealth through their business. We're going to have a discussion about access to capital, how to fundraise being a woman. We're going to have topics in leadership development. Sandra White will be having a lot of those discussions on the panels with other great speakers. So if you have not looked at the event yet, or if you're a male listening to this podcast, go ahead and share this information with one of your loved ones, your colleagues, your friends. This is going to be a great summit. And I just really hope that people share the momentum. That way there's more women that gets benefit from it. So with that being said, I will bring Sandra White, and this episode you're gonna enjoy. So I will see you on the other side. Sandra, it's so nice to have you at Scale to Exit. Thank you so much for being here in my platform today. To everybody that comes in, you are an emotional intelligent coach, a mindset coach. You help businesses exit, basically, spearhead teams. You have worked with Fortune 100 and 500 companies. What has been the driver for you to become this person that you are right now?
I've always had this inner fire of, success. I don't think I've learned as much as something, inside of me that I'm, want to attain and really attain relationships that succeed, right? Because for me, I have a strong, relationship build mentality, and if the relationship is strengthened, then I know there's success that can happen around that. So my desire is to always have, I have goals and aspirations, and building relationships to get there is really where I have my passion.
So I am very interested in the topic of emotional intelligence because that is something that gets talked about a lot in business, but it's not something that gets really put in practice as much as it's talked about.
Yeah.
Can you like share with everybody what emotional intelligence means when it comes to leadership and how that affects mergers and acquisitions, let's say?
Yeah, I mean, emotional intelligence is a key, it's really a game changer for leadership because it really enables you to recognize, to manage, to adapt to complex interpersonal dynamics that happen in the workforce, right? And you build relationships throughout, stronger relationships, you build trust, and you motivate your team forward to the next level with emotional intelligence. So with with emotional intelligence in a leadership position, you create an environment, you create a culture of success. And that isn't inherently there because things can, task, result, positive or negative. The culture around that is really what drives a team forward and a business forward. And emotional intelligence at the heart of leadership drives businesses forward with impact.
I love that. So, what are some ways that leaders can increase their emotional intelligence that they can do on their own on a daily basis?
Daily, you can apply the self awareness, number one, right? Leadership starts with you. You can lead others. First, try to lead yourself. And this isn't about being selfish, but it's really recognizing that, you're a human and you have thoughts, emotions, feelings and reactions as well. So self awareness is number one. And maybe take a day and look at, your what went on in your world, how you responded to something, how you felt about something, and know that that is probably how others would too. So self awareness is something you can apply daily. Empathy is another thing you can apply daily. Is just understanding. Empathy isn't feeling sorry for someone. Empathy is understanding that people have their lives. People have things going on that you can, understand, appreciate, and help with just by having that empathy and understanding. So someone had, tough day, someone cut you off in traffic, right? Those are the hardest times, I think, are in traffic. And part of first applying self-awareness, like, wow, I had a reaction to that, but somebody probably is having a horrible day or really, really late, right? So apply that daily. You can also apply showing that your team or someone else has value. Their opinions, their ideas matter, right? So when you can say, wow, I really appreciate that, because that's going to help us. I think it could help us get to our goal, or let's see how we can apply that to the goal. That's very important that you brought this to me. So showing value to your team, probably the number one thing that teams want to know, or people want to know, is that their ideas are heard and their, work is valued. So apply those three things very simply every day. Will work towards emotional intelligent leadership.
I love that. I love that you said self awareness because we talk in this podcast, we talk about a lot how do you increase business valuation before you go for an exit. And one of
Yeah.
the biggest themes is leadership and team development, team dynamics. Um,
Yeah.
because you are exposed and you had been part of some major acquisitions, what has been your experience in the team area and leadership? What could you say that has been a make it or break it when it comes to an acquisition?
Mm. Well, I'll give a couple examples of a make or break leadership, and they do apply to any acquisition and merger. Um, One is a new leader came in, and there's an existing team. It's even a big corporation, and they are an EQ leader. You could tell, I could tell, and they even called it out that said that not all they wanted to do, but the number one thing they wanted to do for the first few months at least was build trust, right? So building trust with the team and building trust with stakeholders is key in any acquisition, in any merger, but even at the team level, right? Especially if there's someone new, and obviously two companies coming together is a lot of new things, a lot of new people. So building trust at the forefront is very important. You do that through a lot of interpersonal, a lot of communication skills, and empathy and understanding for both parties, right? There are brand new stakeholders. So building trust is probably number one. And I saw that work, very, very quickly. If you focus on building trust, the morale soared, the productivity increased, and obviously trust was built. And another one example is, I was leading a team specifically brought in to rebuild the team for an M&A positioning. And the team had a lot of challenges. It had toxicity, it had miscommunication. It was a regional team that didn't really communicate it that well with the headquarters office. I would say miscommunication. Everyone was trying their best, but there was so much that, layers and layers and layers of challenges that needed to be revamped. So applying EQ as a leader in that situation, again, building trust, so fundamental, understanding each position. In that case, I would say it was key to have a very clear vision and goal and understand that we are working towards something. The company wasn't hiding that they were looking to get a new investor or be sold. So I think, you know, there was a better understanding with the staff, with the teams, to know there's a goal in this, and everything that we're doing is working towards that. Every activity, every valuable part that they add is working towards that. Obviously, you want to increase the business, you want to increase the sales, which makes it look better in an acquisition. So that was part of the goal, right? Too, that was part of the vision. But it did, fundamentally, you have to establish a relationship with the teams and the stakeholders, and then start to communicate the vision around that and how they add to the value of that. So I think it's, in the end of the day, it took more than a few months because it was an acquisition. They take a long time, but it was successful. And EQ is really, my takeaway of how that added success to that acquisition.
Wow. So you just said a lot of good stuff in there because yes, because one of the things that I see, I've been part of a few acquisitions as well, and I mean, nobody's gonna make you sales if you don't have a cohesive team, right? Like if you
Yeah.
tell me, yeah, I'll bring $20,000 more, and you have to depend, and you have to work with Pablo and Rachel, and you don't like to work with Pablo and Rachel,
Yeah.
that's gonna be very tough to do.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes. Yeah, you're right. And you had to, like I said, there was some toxicity in there. I mean, there were so many layers that, you have to peel away the layers
yeah,
and rebuild.
yeah.
And once you start to rebuild and you understand and you build trust with each individual, and you look at where they want to go. This isn't about me as a leader. I think leaders are there for others. You do lead someone, right? You start with yourself, self-awareness. You need to be able to understand yourself and lead yourself, but you're there in a position to make sure others can grow, can, work towards that vision. And eventually, when you put the pieces together, and again, like I said, create that culture that is, oh, I'm being valued, I'm being valued too, I'm being valued, right? It adds up that, the community, the culture is, okay, let's show our ideas, let's get to the goal.
It's
Yeah.
just easier. It's like a
Mhm.
partnership, right? It's kind of like when you're dating somebody, right?
Yeah, it is.
I, it is the same dynamic. I always compare it to personal relationships
Yeah.
because it's the same thing. Yeah.
It's 100% like that. And, I look at EQ, it's your professional life and your personal life. These
Yeah.
apply, right? You build trust, you build a relationship, you build a stronger relationship in some
Yeah.
ways. You have empathy, right? You certainly, inspire others, you motivate others, right? There's so many layers that can be applied to personal lives as well. And I do. I try. We all do, right? Hopefully.
In your experience, because you've been doing this for so long, what has been some of the common mind blocks or challenges that everybody faces when they're trying to achieve a goal?
Yeah. The common ones, I would say, a fear of failure, the imposter
Okay.
syndrome,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Perfectionism or micromanagement,
Okay.
and, being resistant to change, surprisingly, is a big one out there. Um, these can be overcome, though. I think, there's steps to each one. For example, fear of failure and imposter syndrome, right? Is usually when you're saying, yeah, this is too big for me. Someone else does it better, right? But the reality is you look at what you have done in your life already, right? And you have it doesn't have to be the exact same thing, but when you can reassure yourself at a level that's more emotional, your thoughts go rampant. Your emotions motivate or do something to you, right? Your emotions actually, even sometimes, they create a reaction or an action, right? And your behaviors. So I think when you can create an emotion inside of you, like, I have done that. I have done something really hard in my life. It fosters a different thought that maybe it's not so bad. Or I would say another one, micromanagement, for example, is probably the biggest killer of trust.
Okay.
So what you're saying as a leader, if you are micromanaging, is I don't trust you, loud and clear. And you can't ask for trust either. You can't ask them because they're like, well, you'll never trust me, right? So you have to be able to give some autonomy and give them tasks with autonomy, give them a chance to um, you know complete that with their own ideas, their own way, and forward, and then show that that was valued. So micromanage is probably one of the biggest killers of trust in a business. So try to avoid that.
Wow. So for everybody that's listening there, do not micromanage your employees.
And if you want
So
trust.
yeah, not if you exactly, but what if like I've worked with so many bosses and I've been fortunate not to be micromanaged, because I basically say don't mic if you do that I'm gonna leave.
Yeah. Okay, good.
Essentially. You know, but I have seen the other way where people do get micromanaged, and I feel like, yeah, that makes you feel very small, right, as an employee and not respected. In some way, you don't
Yeah.
even feel respected.
Yes. Yes.
But I also see the boss, and I'm like, maybe they have control problems. I don't.
Yeah, I mean that's something that they need to work on, right? And so, yeah, because you're hiring someone, and unless you're terrible at hiring, right, you're
Yeah,
hiring someone that has skills or can do it, can learn, and you're not actually letting them do the work, right? You're
yeah,
actually overseeing everything. It hurts your leadership too. I mean, you can't control everything. There's a control factor there, right? And like you said, it's you're disrespecting your own time because you're trying to micromanage everybody else. So there's so many parts of that instill negativity. And someone can, if you can at least do baby steps and say, I'm aware I need to not micromanage, maybe even think of it as for your own time. Let's give someone the reins, and um, and commit to just valuing what they did or how they did it, and that's it. There's baby steps like that. It could be very instrumental things. It could be very simple things. So it's important. And the change, I see a lot of maybe it's managers that are in a great position, comfortable in their position, and don't want to change. Change is growth. Change is growth. You cannot grow without change. Even the goals that you have, the vision that you have is going somewhere. So you can't stay still and get there. So it's surprising that some people in leadership, don't like change because they got there because there was change. So
yes. How when leaders in those roles don't want change, how what is the program? What are the things that you have to implement with them, and how long does that take? Because if you're leading a company, I'm like putting myself in my
Mhm.
shoes. Like if I have leaders and I am all over the place, like I'm here and there and the vision
Yeah.
here and do do do, and then everybody's like,
Yeah.
oh my God, I'm exhausted, Alejandra.
Yeah.
But if I have a leader and I'm like, I love working with you and I love you in my team, but you are resistant to change, and that's gonna trigger down everything else that you are working and whoever you're working with,
Yeah.
like how long does it take for you to come in and say, okay, I'm gonna help you in this
Yeah.
process?
Yeah. The first thing I would do, it doesn't take actually that long because you really instill some tactical, approaches. If someone doesn't want change, one of the first things I would do if you see someone that's resistant to that is give them the idea, the task of being curious. I want you to look at the business and I want you to ask as many questions as you can about the business or the product or the service. I want you to ask questions, and I want you to ask questions about our competition. I want you to think about, if they can get change. It's a mindset, right? The mindset now is being curious, right? Because curiosity opens your mind to something else, and change is something else, right? So it's baby steps. If you can instill curiosity in your management or even in your staff in general, the communications lines open, but also people don't really want to be stagnant anymore because they see so much more when you're curious.
I love that you say that. You talk about mindset change. So I feel like, okay, so you said curiosity is a mindset change. So for anybody that has fear of, failure, what
Mm-hmm.
kind of mindset changes it has to be on that level in order for them to step into their power again to achieve the goals and the success?
Your fear of failure is about that thing, but you haven't failed at everything, or probably you haven't, has there been a successful time in that experience in the past, right? Your fear of failure is, oh, this acquisition is going to fall apart,
Yeah.
or, oh, I'm not going to make this sale, right?
Yeah.
Oh, and the difference is, we can get into later, but they are both thought processes that affect your emotions and behaviors. And so you want to revamp that thought process of, um, the curiosity is, well, have I done that before? Have I done anything similar before? Have I made a sale before? Has anybody in the world had a merger and acquisition before? Yes. So, it can't be, this is never going to happen. In some cases, that would be a belief. And this isn't going to happen. The curiosity is, well, how could it? Could it? Starting to challenge
Your
those.
thoughts. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. So what do you do when people, I talk about, I bring coaches here, talk on the platform about their belief system because your belief system that's ingrained since you're a baby
Yeah.
really dictates what kind
Yeah.
of things you're fearful to, what kind of, reactions you have. So but you said about the belief system, what strategies do you have to like help people navigate and basically reprogram their belief system if that's holding them back?
I think it's, if it's holding you back from your belief system, there's techniques in REBT. So CBT is cognitive behavioral therapy, where
Hmm.
you're addressing a negative thought pattern,
Hmm.
right? This is your thinking.
Yeah.
And REBT, rational emotive behavioral therapy, is addressing an irrational belief, right? So they're similar. They work together. They work very much in harmony with emotional intelligence, because everyone comes to the table with beliefs that
Yeah.
are maybe irrational or
Yeah.
negative, or
Yeah.
thought patterns that are negative.
Yeah.
So I would apply those. They're therapeutic techniques that again kind of challenge that in a creative way, that um, you would really try and replace the conversation with something. So at a more surface level, in a thought process, I'm not going to make this sale. Well, you know, have you made a sale before? Right? Could you make this sale, or how could you make this sale happen? And you would want to really add things to your thought process to kind of layer them on top of the negative, as people naturally go negative. But when you can add some positive to that, it kind of tries to first diffuse it and neutralize it, and then grow to a little bit more of a positive thought pattern, right? If it's a belief, then you would really challenge the belief. Usually beliefs are, I'm never going to make this happen. They're more absolute. Like, this is never going to go right for me. I'm always getting, this thing happened to me. Um, and the other day, my son's like, oh, I'm doomed. I'm always getting a B or something like that, and I'm like, really? Have you never gotten an A? You've gotten a C. It's like, well, yeah, so you're challenging that from an irrational belief to something more rational and logical. Like, could this happen? So I guess when someone's negative, think of how to, because people will accept logic more than positivity as a
Yes.
as a next step.
Yeah.
It's like you can't just counter negative with positive and say, see, you've got it, right? But when you can get to a neutral starting point, like, well, what's logical in this, right? This has happened before. In fact, I've done some things similar before. If you can get to a neutral point, like, okay, you can open your mind and then add the curiosity, like, well, how could this happen? When has it happened? What did we do? You know,
I love that you said that. And this is cognitive and this is rational, right? They're both kind of like the same strategies, but one is more for the fear and belief that it's absolute, and the other one is just something more like basic, so more like easy to manage. Yeah. Okay.
yes, yes. Yeah. One's a
Interesting.
little bit more high level of the
Yeah.
thoughts and kind of interjecting new thoughts
Yeah.
to change this pattern. And the other
Yeah.
one's a little bit, I would say a little bit deeper in that
Okay.
there's a belief that you
Okay.
need to address that's causing thoughts and
Yes.
emotions and
Yeah.
behaviors. And they go
Yes.
hand in hand. And they go very well with EQ leaders because, you kind of become you're the leader, you do become the coach, you kind of become the advisor, you become when you're adding the empathy to something, it might
Yeah.
help to add positivity in using these techniques.
I love that. I'm gonna use it with my family.
I did. Yes. That's yes.
Because
It
every time I do something, they're like, "Are you gonna do well?" I'm like, "Oh God, stop! Can you stop asking me those questions?"
yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, have I done well before?
Have I done well before? There you go.
Yeah. Have I done this before? Have I done other things well before? Yeah. So I can do this well.
So I can do this well.
And if I don't, I'm going to learn something and I'm going to do it well the next time.
And the next time, correct.
You know? Or not even well, but there's always a fear. The fear of failure is that failure is so horrible, right? And that's because our society doesn't like it, doesn't accept it as,
Yeah.
we don't put that on LinkedIn, do we? I failed. I'm so proud of myself, right? But the reality is that's what resonates the most. If we don't learn from a failure, we it's another part of change, right? It's
Yeah.
another part of growing. And so it's unfortunate we don't actually celebrate the failures in a way that's can neutralize them a little bit. Um, but that's what we remember is like if I miss this one deal or sale or close this, acquisition or not, wow, do you remember that? And you grow from that so much, right?
And just
So
being in the process itself, like it teaches you so much. It
yeah,
really does. Like going into my own as a business owner, right? Uh, Marketing, sales was never my thing. My finance is my background.
yeah.
So marketing was, but I love it. Now I do all the marketing and sales for my business. I know how to do ads. I know how to do social
Oh, that's
media. I know.
awesome. And that's so huge, right? You're able to do that without, you conquered it. That was
Yes.
a struggle or a challenge, maybe
Yes.
fear, and you did it. You're doing it.
Yes.
And
Yes.
there's still so much to learn. That's
And
why I love
there's,
Curious Minds. There's so much still more to
yeah.
learn.
Yes. So one of the things that I don't like doing is, but I still do, and I have to do for my business, is going on the streets talking to business
Oh,
owners. Very
oh,
raw conversation. I just hi,
yeah.
how are you? Do you have 5 minutes? You
Yeah.
can with me. Sometimes I bring my dogs because then that
Right.
it's like an ice.
Diffuses.
Yes. I'm
They're like,
like,
you're not there to sell them something necessarily. You just really want to learn.
yes,
Yeah.
have a conversation.
Yeah.
But still, I mean, I've been doing it for years, but still I have sometimes I'm like, I don't need to do that. I don't want to do that.
That's
Talk about
hard. And what do you do? Do you ask them if is it so you ask them about their business and if they want to grow and scale?
yes, correct. Yeah, so I talk about their pain points. I talk about where they are, how's the economy treating them, depending on,
Yeah.
and I just say I'm not here to sell you something. I just kind of
Yeah.
want
Yeah.
to learn.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
That's
then just to
cool.
start a conversation because there's so many businesses out there that need help, obviously, as you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they do. Yeah.
Let's talk about your team building experience because I am huge. So one thing of my in my companies that we like to do is work on the culture, and we do a lot of like these collaborative events. One time
Yes.
we went to Magic Castle, which you
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh
yeah,
yeah. Good.
yes.
Yes.
Talking
I've been
about,
there.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
talking
Yeah.
about your team building.
Yeah. I mean that you just hit the nail on the head. At the end of the day, you're building a community and a culture as a leader,
Yeah,
and the culture is so encompassing of so many things, and it does have to apply, the task at hand, the goals, the visions, all of the EQ parts of it, of building the relationships and being empathetic of people and inspiring people. And then there's the work life balance, right? That's a big thing right now. So when you're building a culture, and you think of it as your personal life, the culture, is you live, you interact, it's not all work, work, work. It's a lot more social. A
yeah,
culture is usually referred to as social. So if you need to add in some kind of social aspect to building that culture, to building that team, because if you're going to build a team, foundationally, it's the trust, it's the ideas are valued, it's the understanding, it's the empathetic, it's reaching towards the goal. Then if you want to really build a culture, it adds in, more balance in their life that you're understanding. So, one of the ways I think I haven't seen anybody do this, but I wish they would, especially in situations that people are under a lot of pressure, a lot of stress, right? They're in an M&A, there's a lot of pressure. But bring in a comedian, like you went to a facility, but like bring it at a lunch hour. The hard part of work life balance, I think these days, is people don't want to take their personal time and make it a work time, right? So maybe I like to pepper things into a work day. Maybe you're taking them to lunch. Maybe you're taking them to, or bringing in somebody that has value to them. And, comedy releases a lot of stress, right? So you want to release a lot of stress in that, in that environment. And, or bring in, a health professional and have everybody, do something silly like make smoothies for lunch or something like that. So adding in work life balance helps create a culture. It's a different family. It's a work family, right? You don't want to say we are now your family, absolutely, as an absolute, but you do want to say we're your work family and we understand, we need a culture of that too. It's those personal times that do build a different bond, a different level. And part of emotional intelligence is building a bond at a deeper level and an emotional level, which is stronger than, a verbal level, even a nonverbal level. And so I think, you know, making sure you're adding in something that, is a release to them, or adding in, an activity like you did, which is great. And I think people walk away with that with a different impression. Like my company, you know, invested in me in a different way. Number one, these are the kind of emotional things they walk away with, like, oh, that was an investment in my time and such, especially if they can bring their family.
yeah,
That's even more valuable, or you brought it to them. And I think, you're really walking the walk of, you're investing in my work and I'm investing in you as well, right?
yeah.
In many ways. So is that what you meant by how to?
Yeah, yes,
Okay.
exactly. Yeah, I just wanted to know like what kind of strategies you have for team building, which I like the clown idea. I see a lot of people bringing, I love that the clown, the comedian idea.
Well, it's if you're, yeah, the comedian, if you're have especially high stress, because under so much pressure, and at work these days is pressure.
Yeah,
But I think and sometimes there's actually a couple good inspiring comedians that are really more of, EQ comedians at the end of the day, that add inspiring parts of it that are very funny on top of it. So I think you can do, doesn't have to be just a straight comedian, but it would be unique. Something like that would be unique. You can bring in, any kind of holistic idea. Like I said, it could be a
yeah,
health talk. I don't want them to sit there and think that they're just listening. If they can be involved, like a comedian, you're interactive, you're laughing
yeah,
with them or
yeah,
doing something,
yeah,
right? Builds a bond, says you're investing in them, right? Shows that you have interest in their just their being, right? Not
Yeah.
just their work self,
Yeah.
right? So yeah, have them make a meal, maybe bring in a sushi chef, like doing creative stuff, like, and that's what they made it for lunch and they all had sushi for lunch, it's like, whoa, they'd walk away going, that was really cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
So like that, you're really out of the box.
I like that. All of the ideas are great. I love also they bring in a masu sometimes, and then
Yeah. Yeah. Those are, yeah. If they're not worried about, but they don't have to like get undressed or anything, just
no,
feel
yeah.
massage. Maybe it's a foot massage, or everyone's like, this is, I don't, it depends, you want to create that culture first where the people are like, this is really cool.
Yeah.
Not this is really strange.
Exactly.
But I think that just shows like it shows you care, right?
Yeah.
It shows that you're interested in them and their well-being, right? Because I think in EQ you're trying to address some of the, mental wellness, right? Of people's thoughts, emotions, behaviors. And that's a physical wellness ad that's a very nice idea, you know?
So that was my next question. Like, what is the connection between like emotional intelligence, health, mental, and
Mm.
success and business success? Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's a huge connection. I mean, we are holistic beings, right? We don't, especially women, since this is for women leaders, right? We're
Yes.
even more holistic than I would say the male gender. They work best on one thing at a time. We work best as a holistic approach.
Yeah.
So applying a holistic approach and understanding is really key to building up their their feeling of value, right? So I would put it as it's called emotional intelligence, but I think it's even more. That's why I add CBT to it and REBT. That's why I
Yeah.
add communications to it, and I add, mental wellness to it, because when you can apply all of those together, you're really getting at a level that the person says, I think you really get me. I think you really understand me.
Yeah.
And then you can look at, well, what would really work, for your next step in your career? And how does this align with your values, right? It's their values, it's the business's values, and it's your values, right?
Yeah.
So when you put a holistic approach, the values really matter more.
Yeah.
The values aren't just something that the business says, here's our values,
Yeah.
right? Which is surface level. But when you can get to an emotional level with them or a deeper state with them, um, there's trust. You're helping their growth. You're helping the business grow. There's a different alignment of values, right? With their personal, professional, the vision of the goals themselves. And you do that because everyone's values are, um, I want to work, I want to be successful. I also want to have a life that's
Yes.
successful. And both of those being so being the illusion that they're separate when we obviously take home a lot of stuff during the day, especially entrepreneurs, right? The corporate world, some people can separate, right? The entrepreneur world, it's all encompassing. So, I think they're completely intertwined and for all the right reasons, because when you can look at a holistic approach, it drives success, drives an impact so much more quickly.
I 100% agree with you. I am huge on, I'm an entrepreneur. So, like you said, like I mean, I work from home, I have my own, but I go to the mountains, I go to the
Yeah.
beach, I
Yeah.
meditate a lot. When I
Good.
sometimes, yeah, sometimes in the middle of the week, if I don't have any meetings, I'm like, okay, I think I need a break. I'm going to
Yeah.
shut down my computer, or my computer shut down on me by itself. I don't
Maybe that was a sign. Maybe that was some divine intervention of some kind. Yeah, that's great. You brought up
Yeah.
another idea I forgot as an idea is, especially if you have a lot of women on your team, is, a yoga event or even a goat yoga
Yes.
event would be sort of funny. And
Yoga.
yeah, because you said about meditating and such, but you're right. You're all over, right? And your work doesn't leave you, doesn't leave your mind, right? Doing
No.
all those things. I mean, meditating probably is when you try to separate it.
Yeah. Yes, correct. If I can turn it off.
If you can. Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to do that. And so, instilling wellness, whether it's EQ wellness, mental
Yeah.
wellness, physical wellness,
Yeah.
um, it drives an impact so much more if you can consider all those aspects as
Yeah.
part of your professional life, because your profession starts still with a person. It's still
Yeah.
an individual, right?
Yeah.
Which is personal. So
Yeah.
it's hard to separate them. We always say professional and personal, but EQ it does both in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
REBT or CBT applies to both, right? Our physical health um, has an impact on both, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I think it's harder to separate them. We try because people just usually don't know how to manage it all, right? And the like I said, the interpersonal skills that you get, how to manage interpersonal complexities, is a big part of learning EQ in a business.
And that is the hardest part too. It's not like somebody gives you a guide. Here, read this guide,
Yeah,
and then
right, right. Yeah, it does. It is very hard, but um it's achievable. It's just like anything else, right? It's not something you can't do. It is a learned and practiced and applied uh,
yes.
you know you know
How
ability.
does how does that work in, especially with different cultures? Because for
Mm.
example, I am from a culture Latina, right? And sometimes I say the wrong things at the wrong time.
We
Okay.
all do. We all do. Like
You
we're
know,
towing on
like
that,
my
huh?
filter level, I'm learning my filter. Okay, I need to increase my filter a little bit more, but or be more aware. Okay, this is not the right situation to be saying this kind of thing. But I mean, but it's a cultural thing because
Yeah.
in my country, we are just spitfire and like,
Love it. I love that. That's great.
yeah,
There's
but
just so much energy that you give that people feed off of. That don't lose that. That's fantastic.
but it's hard though when it comes to like interpersonal relationships that we were
Mhm.
talking about with different cultures,
Yes.
because then you're working
Yeah.
with not just you're working with something more, like something
Yeah.
more like in
Yeah.
depth than who the person is, I think.
Yes. Yeah,
Yeah.
and you have to be respectful of that. Some people are just naturally more reserved. I
Yeah.
agree with you and understand, and
Yes.
they may be unsure of what to do with someone so different. Same as it's cultural as well as even the trades or professions that people have. Right. I was in the tech space, and there's a big difference between an engineer and a salesperson,
True. Yeah.
and so
Yeah.
you apply that in different ways. I
Yeah.
would you know you know talk with someone differently as an engineer,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Than a salesperson, if it's at a meeting. But the fundamental is still the same. They all have
Mm-hmm.
thoughts, emotions, and
Yeah.
behaviors
Yeah.
that affect them and affect others, right?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the times, and especially as a leader, your role is to connect the others, connect people, right? And there's
Mm-hmm.
usually maybe a misunderstanding. There might be a misunderstanding of cultures, like you're
Mm-hmm.
saying,
Yeah.
not in a negative way, but I just don't get it. Like
Yeah.
I don't understand. This is how I was raised. This is how someone else was raised. So trying to bridge that gap, trying to
Yeah.
come to again that then a more of a neutral place, that we know what you have in common is you all have a vision to get somewhere. If someone can get
Yes.
it with an idea of a ton of energy, and someone can get it with a very maybe strategic behind the scenes approach, you can still
Yeah.
get there,
You
and they
can
all have
still
different parts. Yeah, I
correct.
think.
Yeah. Yeah, that common understanding. I wanted to talk about wisdom warriors, but I know you're rebranding. So maybe you want to talk about your rebrand. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I'll still probably keep. That's what I'm not sure if I'll. Wisdom Warriors is the newsletter, and I am rebranding that. And I just don't know if I'm going to keep wisdom. That's why I say you don't have to get rid of Wisdom Warriors. It's a matter of you did add She Leads 360 to
Mhm.
the marketing, which is great, because I think that's more of the consultant, coaching, advisor, and
Okay.
Wisdom Warriors is the
And this
writing.
Yes.
newsletter.
Got
Yeah, because there's there's wisdom in everything. It can be part of the brand. So you can talk about wisdom warriors, and I can kind of distinguish if
Let's
that's
talk about both because I'm actually really interested. I know we're over time.
okay.
So let's talk about both because I do want for people to know how to find you and what kind of services you provide in the consulting side and advisory side. I think that's really important.
Mhm.
And then on the newsletter too. Yeah. What
Yes.
exactly
Yeah,
tips
and
you
I don't have my website up yet, but it will be by this
but you
weekend.
will be. Yeah.
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 Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I'm switching websites, so that's why I'm like, oh, great. But it'll be done, but at least before November 1st, I thought, so we were good. But it's still fine. So I can say either way, it could be through the newsletter because I still get all of that contact, or through the website. So I'm happy to talk about both.
Yes, let's talk about the She Leads 360. I'm very interesting about that one that you're creating.
Well, it's perfect because we kind of really covered a lot of why I'm saying 360, right? She leads
Mhm.
is I am empowering women leadership as well. It
Yeah.
can be obviously men too, but like you said, there's more dominance in male leadership that I want to empower women leaders, and with an understanding that you lead so many aspects of your life. You lead your professional life, you lead your personal life. It could be your family. You'll lead your friends, right? And you'll lead, from it's a business aspect, or maybe you're leading your family, right? So 360 is really encompassing more than you're a leader. When people say, oh, you're a leader, you think professional only, but you do leading every single day. You're leading this podcast right now, you
Hmm.
know
Hmm. Yeah.
and that is on your professional side, but you'll lead your family somewhere. So I really wanted a place to empower women leaders that encompassed more. You can apply EQ, communication, and CBT, REBT, these techniques to your whole life. So
Okay.
360 view.
I love that. And where if somebody's a business owner, like if I am a business owner and I'm trying to find you, how do I communicate with you? Would it be a program that I have to enroll on? What is the process like?
Yeah, well, sheleads360.com will have different areas that you can sign up for. You can just contact me and say, "Hey, tell me more." We can have a initial one-on-one, complimentary one-on-one to kind of dissect what would work best for you. There's also a listing of 4 different areas. It could be transformational leadership. It could be holistic EQ leadership in all of your life. That's still one-on-one. Could be group leadership for you, some folks, or your team, and then there's another area that is more on the holistic wellness side of it, because some people are already leaders and they want to add that in. So
Yeah.
there's 4 areas that you could choose from that are already there on the website, or just contact me. Go through the contact list and contact me, and I can just talk through it with you to see what works best for you. But it's all consultations or one-on-ones or group leader teaching. And I also have, you could also contact me through Wisdom Warriors, which is a newsletter that I have. Sign up for that and you'll get, weekly to every 2 weeks to weekly, up new articles, whether it's about EQ or, your lifestyle. Sometimes I'll even go back to ancient philosophy and how that's really applied today. So that's really more of a writing platform that adding value to people's lives, hopefully, or adding insight to people's lives. Some of the stories there are even personal stories of mine that I share and show that I'm human too. I've
Yeah.
had a lifetime full of you know challenges and things to overcome, and here's the results, and
Yeah.
things like
I love that. I feel like a lot of people don't share their failures and their
yeah.
challenges, and people should do that more often just
Yeah.
because, like what you said, like in LinkedIn, everybody's like an investor, everybody's like doing this.
I know. Like, if I could start a movement of share your failure and make it not so horrible. Hmm.
Yes, make
Yeah.
it not supportable. Yeah, yeah,
Not
yeah,
to feel so horrible as we
yeah.
know, we teach our other people, like, you're okay. And then we take it so hard on
Yes,
ourselves, right?
yes, so hard on
So,
ourselves.
yeah.
Okay, so is there anything that you want to add that I haven't asked you yet? Let's hear about your personal journey. Like, what made you jump from corporate to what you're doing? What was that moment?
Yeah, well, the moment, it was actually a thoughtful exit, kind of my own M&A, a thoughtful exit, because, I left the structured, known corporate world to the unstructured, unknown entrepreneur world for an emotional pull, emotional tie, a reason of, I wanted to spend more time with my family and I wanted to find my own purpose, right? I love the corporate world. I think it added so much value. It taught me a lot. And I wanted to find my own purpose in that. And so through the exploration, I tried many different areas of maybe, self exploration of different fields, because finding my next thing, my next big thing, I kind of felt like the entrepreneur world was a bit of a Wild West scenario. Like Wild West, there wasn't any structure, right? And the leaders didn't have a foundation to structure, right? You're just not taught that, right? You're taught to be visionary entrepreneurs and let's go for it. And I love that. That's what I was looking for. So I thought I could really saw a value to add a little bit of a foundation to the entrepreneurial, to the business world that wants to grow into a corporation, right? And you don't get all of these structured benefits outside of the corporate world. So I felt a true calling to say that I think I could add there, so many more great leaders out there to add more value to, right? The aspirations are there, the visions are there, the ideas are there, the foundation of, now you're a leader, because if you're successful, your very next step is hiring people and
Mm-hmm.
having a team.
Mm-hmm.
And that wasn't what you thought you were going to do. You didn't say, I want to be an entrepreneur so I can lead a bunch of people.
Yeah.
So that's something I really felt a purpose and a calling. Like I can really, when you're starting to scale, when you're leveling up, when you're growing, adding EQ to your leadership will have the most profound impact. It's going to add speed to your growth. And I felt like I could add that structure in and add a lot of insight into the business world, the entrepreneur world. So it really kind of organically came together that I think this is my place and I love it. I love talking to people about their growth, right? And how to get them to the next level.
But in the corporate world, were you doing this kind of work? No, you were doing something else, right? In the corporate.
I wasn't specifically an EQ
Yeah.
teacher, right?
Yeah.
Or consultant. I was
Yeah.
actually doing the work of executive and management and managing teams, right?
Okay.
And managing
Yes.
sales and managing accounts. I was on the sales side of
Yeah.
businesses.
Okay.
So I understood, I had the business acumen. I understood how to do budgets and all these things
Yeah.
and the organizational part of it. But my passion was um, driving growth in a business team,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
applying that to, applying so many aspects of that to escalate the growth and really, some of my proudest moments are seeing the difference in people with the difference in leadership. That just filled my heart, right? So I know there's growth leaders out there that are going to the next level, that maybe they're ready to exit, maybe they're trying to plan to exit, and
Yeah.
it's so important to have an understanding of a key leadership in that,
Yes.
and get anybody on the same page. So I just felt like tying those two together is something I can add a lot of value to
Yeah.
businesses today.
Yeah. No, I like your passion. Like I can feel it from across the room, your passion on emotional intelligence. And it's not something that people do a lot. Like I told you, like we talk about it all the time, but it's not something that it's like, okay, we're gonna put it in practice, or somebody's gonna give you a guide or some. Yeah. We need more of you.
Yeah, I thought of a guide. I mean, I thought of like, okay, there's things you can download and I'll have those, but yeah, you really need to put it into practice. And there's a lot of conscious steps you can take to put
Yeah.
it into practice. It's you'll the nice thing about emotional intelligence and applying it is you will see the rewards so quickly that you'll keep doing it. It fosters more of
And it
the
feels good. And then you also,
learning.
like, your beliefs are starting to change, and
Yeah,
then your
yeah,
mind blocks, and you kind of start
yes,
seeing success
yes,
in the tangible way, which is
yes.
sales and money and revenue, what people
Yes,
like, right?
yes,
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Hmm.
That's the outcome, right? That's the
Yeah.
okay. That's the things you'll say to others. This is how successful I am.
Yeah.
But when you do it when you have when you add heart to it, I kind of just adding emotional heart to your leadership. Um, you'll be proud of that and so much more. I know that's where I think it adds the end of the day, I think, emotional intelligence, adds purpose and compassion to you and your
Yeah.
business.
Yeah. I agree 100%. I kind of want to like bring you to any business owner that I'm working with, and they're trying
Yeah.
to like, because I work with business owners that are want to exit, but somehow the business is still much of an extension of them, or they really don't have like the team cohesiveness in order to do so. So you need somebody to come in and be like, okay, let's do some work with you, with the
Yeah.
team.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think and that's what I mean. Like you can see results pretty quickly when you apply
Hmm.
some of these things. And I think I know it's a it's a hard thing to grasp. Like, well, what am I going to do with this? Like, how do I apply it? But we'll give you those steps. That's where it depends on where you are in your business. If you're ready to plan an exit, you need transformational leadership. You need to get on that. You need to
Yes.
transform it now,
Yeah.
right? If you're growing, you need one-on-one consulting and
Yeah.
coaching, and you'll
Yeah.
see that development, right?
Yeah.
Or if you want to apply it to your team, it helps the team too to be aware of, how to um, be aware of their feelings, how to
Yeah.
manage their own
Yes.
emotions and behaviors, right?
Yes.
Helps everybody grow. So you're teaching at one level and you're helping them grow at another.
Yes.
And the business does grow.
Yeah.
It's,
Yeah.
it's it
It,
is impactful.
it is. It all starts with the team and the leaders, and that's one of the intangible assets of business valuation that people don't really like. A strategic acquirer will look at the team and will look at everything, and if it's not working, then they're gonna have to replace everybody, right? And that takes money, and that takes time,
Yes.
and
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
So obviously,
Yeah, it's a really good point because there's strategy to that. I mean, I did have to bring in some key, individuals to ensure the acquisition felt this is the team. I don't need to start over. I've
and that
got what.
takes time, and that takes time, right? To bring the key individuals to get them, like you said, trust, to build
Yes.
and resources. And the
And
acquirer is probably like, okay, well then instead of giving you 40 million, I'm going to give you 35 or 30 because I had to spend all this money doing this before.
right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. The more you can do up front, the better for
Yeah.
sure. The more you can
Yeah.
position, it's positioning the right opportunity, right? So it does all matter. The people that are getting acquired, they look under everything, right? And
Yeah.
they should, right? Because it isn't just the business itself. And the win-win in that too is, people don't want to feel like they're not going to be there because of the acquisition, right? If you build a team and your goal is to exit, you still want the team to know and to feel value that they're going to go with. And you want to bridge the gap that it's happening. Here's how we're communicating. Here's the new vision. Here's how your role is going to impact that new vision. So it's a win-win to really plan this in advance.
I agree with you 100%. Like, when people get that's the biggest misconception that I fight with business owners, because they're like, okay, well, people just want increased revenue and sales, and I'm like, not really. Like, if you're getting acquired, they're gonna look at under everything, and they're gonna see if your team is gonna stay, and then if your team feels like they're gonna lose their job, then that's a whole different
Yeah,
dynamic.
yeah, yeah. Because the reality, like you said, is people they don't acquire; they acquire the potential. They
Mm-hmm.
know they're acquiring what you have today,
The
not to
potential.
stay as it is
Yeah.
today.
Yeah.
Right? They're
Yeah.
acquiring a business that has the potential for even more. And where does
Yeah.
that potential come from? Yes,
Yeah.
you need everything in place
Everything in
and you need to be
place.
able to move with speed. Or they're like, well, why would I acquire and then spend, a year rebuilding all
Exactly.
of this, right? So yes, they're going to offer less and it's going to kind of, feel like it's going to fall apart. But it all
Yeah.
depends on where you are in the acquisition stage, I guess. I don't want
Yeah.
to, people may or may not care. I hope they do, but um,
They do.
the team definitely cares. And the acquisition will go so much more smoother if you put some, insight up front.
That is another topic that we need to discuss for some other time, like the transition
Wow.
period, when you have a team that's aligned or when you have a team that's like abort mission, jump
Yeah.
ship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Retention is tough when there's an acquisition. There's all the fears of, where's my spot in this,
Yeah.
yeah. Retention is, the skilled acquisition teams know that, right? But some don't. They don't want to lose key individuals, key stakeholders to the business, right? And you need to prepare for that in this. And yeah, there's so much in that transition that happens. And that, I mean, effective communication, the vision of leadership and the ethics of it come into play, right? There's a lot of ethics and being, having integrity through an acquisition is very, very important for leaders. And being as transparent as you can be, right?
Yes.
The more you understand business, the more that you can't share everything with everyone. And
Hmm.
I think the team needs to understand that. But what you can say and what you can deliver messaging with integrity, and the vision, and we want you as part of this, and make it, then the leaders can go and really, talk to each individual themselves and see where their thoughts are, their thoughts, emotions, and behaviors. But the messaging has to be really, really clear, and the integrity of the business and the team has to be really clear to to know that it can move forward, because you're positioning for growth. Again, get rid of the mindsets that people don't want change, right?
Yeah.
Or work on that first,
Yeah.
right? Growth is good.
Yes.
Status quo doesn't grow.
Yeah. I like that. So,
Yeah.
Sandra, we talked about some really good stuff in here. We talked about emotional intelligence, all the strategies that you use in order to people transform their mindset and their beliefs in like achieving success. And then we talk about acquisitions. I mean, is there anything that you want to add to the conversation to wrap it up? And if you want to say something for the women that you're going to be working with on the event or in your company?
Hmm. Oh yeah, I mean, I would love women to know how incredibly powerful they are, because they already come with an inherent holistic uh, heart to life, right? Inherently, women are, that goes back to the holistic approach, the 360, right? Coming to business with so much of your own um, oh, inherent awareness, inherent um, usually empathy with a lot of women, is so powerful that you have, the greatest amount to bring to a business. Know that. And whatever you are concerned with, your own fears, your own, worries or failures or imposter syndrome, it can be addressed. These things can be addressed. So if you have a desire and you want to move something forward or even start something, and you have something blocking you, that can be addressed. So do address that. Don't sit there and have, I wish I did concerns, at some other point in time. And I think learning techniques will help. There are learned techniques that can be applied. You can learn and apply emotional intelligence skills and tools, and you'll have them in your tool belt. And you really can empower. You build your own empowerment, and then you empower others to move a business forward. And again, what I love so much about emotional intelligence is how much it applies to, again, we'll separate professional and personal, but we're really all encompassing both of them. And, it really impacts leaders that lead professions. It impacts leaders that leads their personal life, their families. It impacts your everyday life can be applied to this. And what I think is most profound about it is it really does help your purpose. It really does identify your values and applying those values. Because at the end of the day, we want to do something with purpose and with value to the world, right? And where are we in that process in our life? So I know adding these skill sets to your to either your work, your personal, and hopefully both, can get you to that value place, can get you to that's I want to scale personally, professionally, what have you. And I really want to live my life, with more purpose and compassion in it.
I think I want to work with you.
Yeah,
So,
it's all
no.
awesome. I love it. It really, really, really impacts life. Yeah, I'm happy to.
And for
Yeah, thank you.
everybody that's yeah, for everybody that's listening, I just want to say that I'm doing the interview with Sandra here, and I can just feel how genuine you are and how
Aw.
much empathy and compassion you have. Like you will be such a joy and to
Mm,
work with you. So
yeah.
because I've talked to so many people, right, and I just feel your energy is so pleasant.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
yeah.
you.
Because people,
Appreciate
I know, yeah, people are not, in a
Yeah.
conversation
Yeah.
right now. So I just want to
Yeah.
transmit that feeling to everybody that's listening. And Sandra is gonna be on November 1st,
Yeah.
on the business summit that we have for female leaders build legacy wealth through your business. So for anybody that's listening, share the events, share the business summit because it's gonna be a great, impactful event, and we depend on all of you to make this successful. So it will
Yes.
be really
Please,
great.
please
Yeah.
share and
Yeah.
empower other women by joining this event. It's very impactful.
Yes. Yes. Very.
Wonderful.
Thank you, Sandra, so
Thank
much
you.
for
Uh,
being here.
appreciate
Oh my God.
it.
I loved having you here. It's such a
Me
great
too. I enjoyed it.
conversations. And
I,
I hope that we get to work together, honestly, because I feel like I can put you as some business owners.
oh, fantastic. I appreciate that. I'm happy to be a resource to you. And likewise, I love being part of this. Thank you so much for this opportunity. It's wonderful.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank
Well, for everybody else, thank you so much. Adios,
you.
muchachos. Bye.
Ciao.
Okay, wait, I'm gonna